Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. We have 6 of our members and our student member present this evening. We do, in fact, have a quorum. I call this meeting to order, and I invite you to stand with us as we pledge allegiance to the flag and have a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'll have approval of this evening's agenda. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any discussion, any questions? All those in favor of approval? Okay, we have 6 affirmative and the student member concurs. We have several sets of minutes to approve.
President Williams, I move for the approval of closed session minutes dated Tuesday, December 19th, 2023.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. These are the closed session minutes. All those in favor of approval, December 19th minutes. Okay, we have 6 affirmative.
President Williams, I move for the approval of business meeting minutes dated Tuesday, December 19th, 2023.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any additions or corrections to the business meeting minutes dated Tuesday, December 19th? Okay, all those in favor of approval? Okay, we have 6 affirmative and student member concurs.
President Williams, I move for the approval of closed session minutes dated Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. These are closed session minutes. All those in favor of approval of the January 2nd closed session minutes? 6 affirmative.
President Williams, I move for the approval of closed session minutes, open portion, dated Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Okay, colleagues, this is the open portion of the closed session minutes of January 2nd. All those in favor of approval? Okay, we have 6 affirmative.
President Williams, I move for the approval of work session minutes dated Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Are there any additions or corrections to the work session minutes of January 2nd? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of approval? We have 6 affirmative and the student member concurs. Is that it, Mrs. Murray?
That's it.
That was quite a lot. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we have all of those minutes approved. Thank you. This time in our meeting, we do public comment. We do, in fact, have 2 individuals who have signed up in advance. You do not have to sign up in advance to be able to come forward and speak during public comment. I would like to read from Board Policy KD with regard to our procedures during our business meeting public comment portion. Each person wishing to address the Board of Education is encouraged but not required to sign up prior to the meeting and may address any topic concerning Washington County Public Schools except personnel or student matters which clearly identify an individual or individuals. Individuals wishing to address the board who do not sign up prior to the start of the meeting will be required to sign the log located at the speaker's table for the purpose of the meeting minutes. Each speaker may speak for up to 5 minutes. Mrs. Murray is our timekeeper. Mrs. Murray, would you like to explain how that works?
Yes, I set my timer for 5 minutes. When you have 30 seconds, I will raise this, and when your time is up, I will raise this.
Thank you. Our first speaker, I believe, let's see the last name. It's Casey Reed? Casey Reed? Good evening. No, no apology necessary.
I need to push this and turn this on. It's already on.
It's
All right,
on.
terrific. As mentioned, my name is Casey Reed, and I'm the parent of 2 students in Washington County Public Schools. I'm here tonight to advocate.
I'm sorry, Casey.
Sorry.
Closer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Is that better? Should I
Perfect.
start entirely over?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Terrific. As I mentioned, my name is Casey Reed. I'm the parent of 2 students here in Washington County Public Schools. I'm here tonight to advocate for my youngest daughter and other students like her. Apologize if I get emotional. Probably will. My wife and I never struggled in school, and neither does our oldest daughter. It wasn't until our youngest entered the school system did we realize how hard it could be for students, with disabilities. And I think our experience personally had me underestimate how difficult that would be. So did you know that dyslexia is the most common neurocognitive disorder, as it impacts almost 20% of our population? Dyslexia is not connected to anyone's IQ. Youth with untreated dyslexia are more likely than their non-dyslexic peers to drop out of high school, become unemployed or underemployed, or even incarcerated. 62% of non-readers drop out of high school. According to the National Assessment of Educational Process, 38% of 4th graders are below basic in reading skills. 80% of children with an IEP have difficult reading, and 85% of those children are dyslexic. 74% of students who display reading problems in the 3rd grade will remain poor readers unless they receive special instruction in reading and phonological awareness. Washington County Public School students with disabilities have a graduation rate of only 69%, and 11.6% of Washington County Public Schools elementary students with disabilities met the annual target for English language arts. If you look just to the east in Frederick County, you'll find that students with disabilities are performing far better than here in Washington County. In Frederick County, students with disabilities have a graduation rate of 77% versus 69% in Washington County. The MCAP proficiency in ELA is 23.5% for 3rd graders, for 3rd grade students with disabilities, where in Washington County it's only 11.3%. So what's the difference? In Frederick County Public Schools identify students earlier as dyslexic within their educational career than here in Washington County. More importantly, they offer students the gold standard in dyslexia intervention through a structured literacy program known as Bowman's Orton Gillingham Plus. I'm going to say Bowman's OG Plus from now on. I'm going to try not to only pronounce that once. Students with dyslexia can be successful, but it's very important that they're identified early. Children do not outgrow dyslexia. A recent study published in the Journal of Science and Learning found that an adult's literacy skills at age 40 can be predicted by their early reading proficiency as a child. Learning to read is a fundamental human skill. It's the hard part. Our daughter is now in 3rd grade, and she effectively cannot read. She reads at multiple levels below her peers. We began to notice phonetic awareness issues and speech delays with her when she was in kindergarten. We've been highly concerned since 4th grade, as we just could not understand why such a smart child could not learn the necessary skills that she needed to become a good reader. She began receiving interventions almost immediately based on her speech delays. But it took us many meetings and numerous testing results and multiple years before she was identified as dyslexic. We now wish she had been identified sooner. Unfortunately, students identified late will take 4 times longer than their peers to be successful. Due to our growing concerns over this time frame, we felt it necessary to explore and research how best to address our child's needs, including independent testing and external consultation outside of the school system, we now believe that the Bowman's OG Plus structured learning program will be critical in her attempt to catch up to her peers. Unfortunately, at this time, Washington County Public Schools only has one teacher trained in Bowman's OG Plus program. Washington County Public Schools offers another program by Wilson, but this is inferior to Bowman's for certain students like my daughter. The Wilson program is designed to be broad and address numerous nuances associated with dyslexia. Unfortunately, this one-size-fits-all approach is not optimal or even appropriate in some instances. Additionally, only 23 teachers are trained with the introductory 3-day course of the Wilson program. While I don't know the quantity, it is assumed that most of these 23 teachers have not completed the 90-hour online course or supervised practice that is required to become a certified trainer in this program. According to Dr. Sally Shaywitz, the co-director of Yale Center for Dyslexia and Creativity, the variable that makes these intervention programs most successful is teacher training, the availability of materials, but most importantly, time. This time is required to fully implement the program associated with thorough and complete teacher training, and also the time dedicated to students. Any program must be implemented in the way that it was designed, and it cannot be abbreviated. Washington County was awarded $2 million to be used for training staff in the science of reading with the LEAS grant. Washington County Public Schools' expectation is that 80% of K-3 students will meet their grade level reading target by the fall of 2024. With the current testing and intervention structure, my child will not be part of that 80%. I'm here tonight to request the BOE allocate a significant portion of these funds, at least $500,000, for the implementation of the Bowman's OG Plus structured learning system and a reevaluation of testing protocols to ensure that students with dyslexia are identified as early as possible. We need more teachers trained in the 60-hour program so that we can better address our students' needs. We need to invest in our teachers through alternative training and our students by giving them access to the structured reading program, Bowman's OG Plus. Our dyslexic students deserve thoroughly trained educators and programmatic options that give them the greatest opportunity to read in the special way that they learn. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. The next person I have is Amanda Whitaker. Did I get that right?
It's actually Whitmore, Amanda
Whitmore?
Whitmore. Yes,
I apologize.
that's okay. Good evening, Board of Education members. As you begin workshopping through the superintendent's draft budget, I wanted to remind you of the critical need to include increased funding for special education professional development. I understand the job of creating a budget isn't easy and not everything can be funded. However, the serious lack of our struggling readers making progress should be one of the highest critical needs. I recently spoke with Dr. Melissa Brunson regarding the dyslexia training WCPS staff currently received, and I was pleased to learn that 5 staff members are actually currently getting trained in Bowman Orton Gillingham Plus, and that's a really great start. That training will include 60 hours for each staff person to learn the nuances of identifying and supporting students with dyslexia from K through 12th grade. WCPS must commit to continue sending staff to this program so that we can effectively support students with dyslexia at all grade levels. In March of 2023, our neighboring school system, Frederick County, reported to their Board of Education that they began training cohorts of special education staff in the Orton Gillingham Plus in 2020. As of March 2023, FCPS had 296 OG Plus trained staff, with 27 enrolled currently in that training. Every school in FCPS has one teacher trained, with 72% of schools having 2 to 5 staff trained. Additionally, they reported that in school year FY23, 513 students were enrolled in the program, with 69.3% demonstrating growth from the beginning to middle of the school year on their iReady assessment. FCPS sends 20-plus staff at a time, which then allows them to be trained all at once and in person, and WCPS can do the same. Additionally, if a district is in agreement, educators who successfully complete the Bowman program are eligible for 4 Maryland State Department of Education continuing professional development credits. Dr. Brunson also mentioned that 23 special education staff were trained in Wilson Reading System, WRS. It was mentioned that this training is 3 days of training, which is the introductory course. According to Wilson's website, the introductory course is a 16.5-hour course that, quote, provides participants with an overview of the WRS and serves as the prerequisite for WRS Level 1 certification training, end quote. Course objectives include defining dyslexia and understanding its prevalence and impact, explaining the process of identifying students with a language-based learning disability, and demonstrating an understanding, not mastery, of the key components of the Wilson Reading System. While Wilson is also based on the Orton-Gillingham approach, this introductory course alone fails to properly meet the needs of dyslexic learners and does not train staff to explicitly and with fidelity provide an appropriate intervention. Additionally, the intro course is not certified by the International Dyslexia Association. The Wilson program does not even indicate the introductory course by itself is adequate, but rather says the introductory course, WRS Level 1 certification, and WRS Level 2 certification are recommended as, quote, they provide the teachers with the necessary background and skills to teach WRS in a manner that maximizes student success in the program, end quote. Wilson also states that teachers with Level 1 certification are able to provide one-to-one instruction, and those with Level 2 certification can teach small groups of 3 to 4 students. I can tell you from personal experience that my third grader who is dyslexic is receiving Wilson from staff who have received the introductory course only and is in a group of 3 students. That's not acceptable. Hopefully you can see the inadequacy we are providing our special education teachers by only sending 23 staff in a school system with 25 elementary schools, 7 middle schools, 9 high schools, and 5 special programs, and a student population of over 24,000 students in receiving an introductory course. And even greater, this fails our children. The IEP process is already a confusing and complicated process for parents that on top of trying to get appropriate goals and services, we also have to find an appropriate intervention that does not exist in the county. For parents who are fortunate to have the means, we have to hire out of our own pockets advocates and outside evaluators to access the assessments and data to properly inform us what goals and services are needed. Some of us have been so let down by the system that we have resorted to homeschooling, hiring private tutors, or seeking private schools. This should not be happening. And what about the kids and parents who don't have the means to access these additional resources? We must do better. That's why I'm here again to implore you to increase the budget to $500,000 so that you can send more than 5 staff a year to receive the Bowman OG Plus training, a training that is certified by the International Dyslexia Association and takes 3 months to complete compared to at least 12 months to gain Wilson 1 certification. We must have at least 1 fully trained staff in each school, and we must start making that goal happen quickly. Dr. Sovine mentioned in his presentation this afternoon that students are making progress. I can assure you, not all students are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Whitmore. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward at this time to speak? Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Sovine, and members of the Board of Education. Today marks the transition between the first and second semester for our students and teachers. Teachers have finished semester grades, and in some cases, high school teachers are getting ready to launch new courses. Some of these are dual credit courses with HCC. WCTA is inviting secondary teachers involved in dual credit courses to participate in a focus group opportunity to help us identify what went well and what may need to be addressed to improve the delivery of dual credit coursework. We've shared this plan with Dr. Willow and Dr. Sovine, and we look forward to providing feedback from our teachers. Last weekend, 8 WCTA members attended the Maryland State Education Association's Racial, Social, and Economic Justice Summit and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. I was inspired by the students from Pocomoke High School who shared their work as the Speak Up Club. Their school provides them with a 1-hour lunch so that all students, whether they have access to after-school transportation or not, can participate in clubs and activities. I was also inspired by the Minority Scholars Program from the Montgomery County Public Schools. Students from each of their high schools participate in a 6-week intensive leadership training program over the summer that is hosted by the Montgomery County Education Association, and then lead local chapters at each high school in the system. WCPS needs to learn from these model programs, and WCTA stands ready to help in whatever ways we can to support new ways of looking at the school schedule to provide students with time in the school day to be active in clubs such as these. WCTA's negotiations team has already been meeting, and we hope that we can conclude our local negotiations by the end of February so that we can all move forward to focus on advocating for the local funding needed to allow us to meet the needs of students throughout Washington County, as well as to appropriately compensate teachers and other WCPS staff for their work. We support Dr. Sovine's draft budget, and we are hopeful that the county commissioners will see the critical needs that are unique to the FY 2025 budget year as blueprint funding ramps up. At these Board of Education meetings over the last several years, I have heard misrepresentation and misinformation related to the terms diversity, equity, and inclusion many times during public comment. DEI is not a 4-letter word. Students need us to champion them no matter their race, ethnicity, special needs, disabilities, country of origin, gender, and sexual orientation or gender expression. All of our students matter. They need to know that we support them. If or when this board hears such comments in the future, I hope that you will do your due diligence to be mindful of misinformation and agendas that are harmful to our students and act accordingly in your decisions related to diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Washington County Public Schools. Thank you for your service to our students. We look forward to continuing WCTA's partnership with Dr. Sovine and his staff as we move into the second half of the school year. And I realized I didn't introduce myself. I'm Carol Mowen. I'm the WCTA president. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward during public comment? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ethan Lowen. At the previous board meeting, there were 3 speakers who together formed a near perfect summary of everything that families have been speaking to this board about for the last 2.5 years. One of the speakers was a parent who discussed the need for this board to reinstate appropriate music instruction for their school's marching band. There were comments from another parent discussing how this board's policies were unable to help their child learn to read. And this parent was giving ideas to this board on how to help other children to read, which I understand because as someone who wasn't realized that I was dyslexic until I was 8 years old because I couldn't write my name at the lunch counter, so I just wouldn't eat lunch. That's how they found out. At first glance, these comments come across as family members who are simply bringing their concerns to the board. However, when you widen the lens and see that parents never used to come to this board with significant concerns for children with the consistency they do now, you recognize those comments as a symptom of long-term unresolved issues. What families come to this board speaking about can be broken down into 2 themes, and those first 2 speakers captured those themes perfectly. The first is that parents have noticed the ability of our schools to educate children in reading, writing, history, math, and science, along with music, is being lost. The second theme is that this loss is related to changes in policies and curriculum this school board has voted in. As a result, in the cohort of school districts across our nation that have been following this path along with this board, families in record numbers are sending their children to private schools or homeschooling them. The policies of these school districts have transformed the schools from being one of society's pillars that creates a floor to a child's quality of life due to the benefits of academic achievement, to these schools being transformed into environments of lost opportunity. As a result, those school districts have become a ceiling created by those lost opportunities that children, as they become adults, need to dedicate their lives to try and break through after the fact. Whereas I was very successfully treated for my dyslexia along with everyone else in my school. The question must be asked, how has this happened? Why have you argued with families, ignored them, referenced families as being bigots as they protest you pushing children down this path? Which brings us to the final speaker at that meeting. A representative from the teachers union spoke about their vision for the continued changes in policy they want this board to follow through with. They discussed moving grades from reflecting how well a student is learning to read and write, how well they are learning history, math, and science. Instead, they want this board to instruct teachers to give grades based on what the union refers to as the 4 C's, which stands for critical thinking, creative thinking, communication, and collaboration. Practically speaking, for the school boards that have already done this, it results in about 20 to 30% of a child's grade being based upon their actual education, while the remaining 70 to 80% of the grade is based upon teachers judging a subjective criteria that is not possible to accurately judge. The difference between the two is that the historic basing of grades upon a child's academic achievement is a highly accurate indicator of a child's progress towards the schools they will need to achieve their life's goals, and it's something that both students but also schools should hold themselves accountable to. Whereas the 4 C's is a measurement of something so subjective that it is a measurement of nothing, and the entire process results in essentially all children receiving passing grades, regardless of what they actually need in order to have the opportunities in life that they and their families desire. I will ask a question that has been asked by many people many times. Why does the teachers union continue pushing these kinds of policies? The only answer that has been given is the now infamous statement by the National Teachers Union that, quote, educators love their students and know better than anyone what they need to learn and thrive. Aside from the fact that laying that kind of claim upon other people's children has played a role in many of history's great tragedies, there is an additional side to the harsh reality of the unionist school district. The teachers union are not the ones that turn their beliefs into policies. These policies are voted in by unionist school board members. And these school board members have turned the public schools into loudspeakers for the teachers union to promote their social and political views. During each election year, the teachers union has its political materials dispersed through the schools to the community. When organizations that have a different view of education than the union have asked to have their materials dispersed as well, this school board's response was no, thereby ensuring that our schools remain the union's loudspeakers. I would ask this board, now that the union wants you to take the final step of transitioning from a culture of education and being one of the pillars that creates a floor of achievement for our society to stand upon, to now becoming what so many unionist school districts have already become under these policies, a ceiling for children who have lost the opportunity to experience an environment of education. Will you recognize the damage caused by these policies and the wisdom of parents' opposition to them? Will you change your policy of having the schools be the loudspeaker for the union's political and social views and make it so that our schools are no longer a promotional tool for your preferred political entity or any political entity? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lowen. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay, thank you. Thank you to all who have come forward to speak. At this time, we'll have board member response to public comment. Colleagues, any response?
I would just say that thank you for the information on dyslexia tonight, all those statistics and everything. I'll be honest with you, I'm not an expert on those things, and you've helped educate me about those things. Hopefully, I speak for myself. I can't speak for the whole board, for the superintendent, but hopefully we can find a way to better address the needs of those students. How that is, I'm not sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Mr. Reed and Ms. Whitmore, I thank you too for coming forward and sharing that information with this board. Appreciate having that information. Look forward to looking into it and having discussion with Dr. Sovine and staff. Colleagues, anyone else? Okay, at this time we'll begin our old business. Our first item of old business is the second reading of proposed changes to policy AEA, goal setting. We have Mrs. Ram with us.
Thank you. President Williams, Dr. Sabine, members of the board. The Board of Education approved the first reading of proposed changes to policy AEA at its public business meeting on December 19, 2023. The policy committee placed a notice on board docs and the school system's website seeking comments from the public on the proposed changes to the policy. The committee received comments on the proposed changes and discussed them at its public work session on January 11, 2024. The committee did not recommend any further changes to the policy. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of policy AEA.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy AEA entitled Goal Setting.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion?
I just wanted to address the comments that we received, because we did discuss them. And mainly, can you talk through what the identity of a stakeholder is when you're talking about stakeholders in the system?
Certainly, Mr. Bickford. A stakeholder is anyone who has a vested interest in the organization. So for a school district, we're talking about community members, parents, family, staff, educators, local government, funding sources. Those would be our stakeholders. So in the context of this policy, when we're talking about goal setting to address that public comment, we were not excluding parents. While we don't name them specifically, they are a key stakeholder.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy AEA entitled Goal Setting. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative. Student member concurs, motion carries. All right. Our next consideration is for the second reading of proposed changes to policy IGDK, participation of athletic teams and in extracurricular activities. Mrs. Ram?
The Board of Education approved the first reading of proposed changes to policy IGDK at its public business meeting on December 19, 2023. Following the approval, the Policy Committee placed a notice on board docs and the school system's website seeking comments from the public on the proposed changes. Comments were received and reviewed at the committee's public work session on January 11, 2024. The committee did not recommend further changes to the policy. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy IGDK.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy IGDK entitled Participation on Athletic Teams and in Extracurricular Activities.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion?
We did receive one question from the public that we addressed in the committee, but we can discuss it here as well. They were concerned that we were deleting parent involvement, which I think was a misinterpretation. And specifically, they asked about what promulgate means.
There was a question that came up about a number of these policies about what promulgate means and promulgating an administrative regulation. And really, for anyone listening, really the policies themselves are the what, the law, what we need to follow. And the regulation is the how are we going to do it, how we implement it, the business side of it. And promulgate is just another word for saying the superintendent will draft the guide of how the school system will execute the policy.
Any other questions?
It is a big word.
It is.
Okay. We'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy IGDK entitled Participation on Athletic Teams and in Extracurricular Activities. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative, unanimous vote, student member concurs. Okay, our next action item is the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHC, do not resuscitate procedures. Mrs. Ram?
The Board of Education approved the first reading of proposed changes to policy JHC at its public business meeting on December 19, 2023. The Policy Committee posted a notice on board docs and the school system's website seeking comments from the public on the proposed changes. Comments were received and reviewed by the committee at its public work session on January 11, 2024. Those comments were about the regulation, which I previously answered publicly. Nary a change was made to the policy by the committee. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHC.
Motion.
Madam President, I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHC entitled Do Not Resuscitate Procedures.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion?
I actually do have a question. So I've noticed that on a lot of these, well, all of these, we have policy, well, you know what, I'm gonna come back and ask it later. Sorry.
Okay.
Because it's gonna be more relevant for another one that we're gonna talk about.
Okay.
So sorry,
That's okay.
just kidding.
Anyone else? Then we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHC entitled Do Not Resuscitate Procedures. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative, that's a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Okay, our next action item is the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCB, inoculations of students.
The Board of Education approved the first reading of proposed changes to policy JHCB at its public business meeting on December 19, 2023. Following the board's approval, the policy committee posted a notice on board docs on the school system's website seeking comments from the public on the proposed changes to the policy. Comments were received and reviewed by the committee at its public work session on January 11, 2024. The committee did not recommend further changes. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCB.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCB entitled Inoculations of Students.
Thank you, Mr. Butcher. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Questions, discussion? Not now? Okay.
It's going to be later.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the approval of the second reading of proposed changes to policy JHCB entitled Inoculations of Students? All right, we have 6 affirmative, a unanimous vote with the student member concurring. Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Okay, we'll move now to new business. Our first item of new business is this evening's consent agenda, and we have Mr. Scott Bakewell, our supervisor of purchasing, presenting. Good afternoon.
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Sovine. Tonight I have 4 items for your review. These items have been reviewed by our Purchasing Review Committee and are being recommended for approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bakewell. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements for unit price contract for earthworks to Greenridge Contractors, Inc., Huntsberry Brothers, Inc., Muller, Inc., and Wagner's Construction at the unit prices listed. Unit price contract for architectural window film and installation to Absolute Perfection, Inc., Berkeley Glass, and National Glazing Solutions, LLC at the unit prices listed. Internet service provider renewal to Antietam Broadband at the monthly unit rates listed, and fleet card and related services to Wex Bank at an approximate annual cost for fuel of $300,000.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. This time we'll have questions or any discussion. Have any questions?
I'm just curious. Does Wex only do fuel, or do they also do flexible spending accounts?
I think this is only fuel. And
Okay.
and actually it has a service section to it as well. If we have cars that say go down to Annapolis or something and they would have a flat tire, they could use this card at a local repair shop to have that tire repaired.
Okay, so it's more like a banking.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
I think the benefits that I have go through Wex as well,
Oh.
so
Huh.
I guess they're in the banking world. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements as presented, as read by Mr. Bickford. All those in favor of approval? All right, we have 6 affirmative, unanimous vote with the student member concurring.
Thank you.
Item under new business is the 2024-2025 middle and high school programs of studies. We have with us Dr. Gary Willow, our Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and Dr. Heath Wilcox, our Executive Director of Secondary Education. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Savine, members of the board. I'm here tonight to seek your approval on the 24-25 program of studies. We'll start by just probably acknowledging the formatting changes that have occurred in this version. The goal was really to create a program of studies that was more user-friendly for our students and our parents. You might remember in the past that historically our program of studies has been just really a listing of all of the courses we offer along with the descriptions. In this program of studies, we really tried to give more information, and it's broken down by department. So when you're thinking about career goals, having that background knowledge to select the appropriate courses that might best align to those career goals. We're really proud of the CTE section in particular. In this edition, we have all of the technical skills assessments, the 2-year outlook, 4-year outlook. So whether you're going right into the career workforce or you are looking at a 2 or 4-year or trade school, there's really different information in there. And hopefully, parents will find this easy to navigate. One last thing that I would point out about the format, on this, on almost all of these pages, you'll notice a QR code. And when you use the QR code, it actually takes you to the WCPS website. One of the things we really wanted to do was focus more on what our courses, what we're teaching in those courses, give a little more background. So now all of our courses are actually on our website as well. So that allows parents and students, should they not have this book or they misplace it, they can go right to our website and still find some of the same information. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wilcox to talk a little bit about graduation requirements.
Good evening. The slide in front of you shows the 24 credits that are required to earn a Washington County diploma. There are no changes or adjustments to the number of credits required to earn the high school diploma, so students still need to earn 4 credits in English, 4 in math, 3 in science, 3 in social studies. All students must graduate with a completer. Students have 2 options to earn a completer, which are a University of Maryland completer, also referred to as a UMD completer, or a career and technology education completer, referred to as a CTE completer. A UMD completer requires a student to earn 2 credits in the same world language, and the 4 math credits must include Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. Students who earn their Algebra 2 credit before their senior year must take a 4th math that utilizes non-trivial algebra, and examples of those courses would be statistics, pre-calculus, and calculus. A CTE completer requires completion of a state CTE pathway, and those pathways range from 3 to 8 credits. Students must take a Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, referred to as MCAP, aligned to specific English and math courses for graduation. MCAP assessments include English 10, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. Students must pass the English assessment and 1 math assessment to meet college and career readiness standards, also referred to as CCR. The senior cohort's assessment scores are factored into a high school's Maryland report card each year. Students must now take an end-of-course assessment, also known as an EOC. Students must take the Life Science Maryland Integrated Science Assessment, referred to as MISA, and the Government Assessment. Both of these courses are considered end-of-course assessments. Starting with the current 9th grade cohort, EOC assessments will be 20% of the final grade. This means for WCPS courses, the MISA assessment will count for 20% of the final grade for honors biology students this school year. Students who take biology will have an EOC assessment as part of their final grade starting in the 2024-2025 school year. Biology is a 10th grade course. The government assessment will be an EOC starting in the 2024-2025 school year for students who take Honors American Government and American Government. These are also 10th grade courses.
Dual credit opportunities. I think we talk a lot about Blueprint and the expansion of dual credit, but we've offered dual credit courses now for over a decade or more in WCPS. What the Blueprint brought to us for the first time really this past school year and then in more detail for this school year when we covered tuition and books are that dual credit courses no longer have a cost for students. So last year tuition was covered. This year it's tuition, books, fees are all covered through the Blueprint. That means WCPS directly pays the bill to Hagerstown Community College for those courses. For the 24-25 school year, there are 69 dual credit courses that are in our program of studies that could be offered at our high schools. That equates to 222 college credits. Now, obviously, those are not all courses that a student might take. Each school offers a variety of different courses based on, in case they're completer, their teaching staff and what they're able to offer, and the interest of students that factor into which dual credit courses are offered by school. No longer dual credit, and this is something that will fluctuate year after year as Hagerstown Community College updates their curriculum in conjunction with the College Board updating their curriculum. Our goal was to, last year, look at our AP courses in particular, and when they aligned to Hagerstown Community College, to make the natural fit to make them dual credit. As we went through this year, there was some alignment, and there was a good effort to continue that alignment. Unfortunately for us, the AP and College Board curriculum is different than Hagerstown Community College, even just in the structure and the amount of time. And there was too much of a difference to keep them as dual credit. And this is something that's important because for Hagerstown Community College, it's important that they keep their accreditation and that credits transfer from 2 to 4 year. So they have to make sure that their curriculum matches other curriculums, so in order to make sure that our credits can transfer. College Board also has a set curriculum, and sometimes they align and then sometimes they don't. And in this case, we just ran into some issues with alignment. We still have, and if you think social studies in particular, we still have dual credit courses that can run. For example, you'll see AP World History. We'll still have that next year. It won't be dual credit, but there is another course, World History since 1500, that is dual credit and does meet the world history requirements that a school could choose to run. I would probably make that similar to how some schools run AP Economics, but still offer honors economics for dual credit, or AP Psychology, but still have honors psychology. Not every school chooses to run both, but some will run one or the other, again, based on student enrollment and also staff input. When we talk about our new dual credit courses, there's a couple I want to highlight. The Criminal Investigations is a specific course that's part of our Public Service Academy through Boyd J. Michael Technical High School. We also are introducing some of the arts. You'll see that there's a choral singing, a wind ensemble, and a string ensemble. These meet some of the requirements for an fine arts credit through Hagerstown Community College. This is important. WCPS continues to prioritize the arts. So the fact that we were able to work to bring these 3 courses in, along with the introduction to theater, I think continues to support our mission and vision for the arts. We also have the Introduction to Unmanned Aerial Systems. That is also a Public Service Academy course that's offered through Boyd J. Technical High School, Boyd J. Michael Technical High School. And then we have the 2 new marketing courses, Marketing and Introduction, and the Advanced Management Theory that supports our marketing CTE pathway. New CTE electives or courses. All high schools next year will have the opportunity to run a Business Computer Applications 1 and 2. This is sort of a basic entry-level course into Microsoft Word and Excel. So one of the things that we consistently heard from teachers and students and counselors with the feedback, we want to take some of these CTE courses, but we don't necessarily want a 4-course pathway. So what we worked hard on was to design courses that allow for an elective, but you don't have to take all of the other courses that necessarily go with that pathway. Business Computer Applications 1 and 2 is an example of that, along with Exploring Computer Science, and our robotics program continues to expand. And I think a perfect example of that for those that were able to make it to the Valley Mall this past weekend, we had a number of teams, both at the middle and high school, competing in the robotics tournament. We are now going to offer a robotics 1, 2, 3, and 4 during the day that will focus along with the VEX robotics platform. And we think that's an excellent opportunity for students that aren't able to stay after school, but still want to be involved in our robotics curriculum. North Hagerstown High School will have an HVAC program. This is the 4-course pathway. We talked a little bit about this. Board members, I would remind you that we approved a trailer that would support this, that would be parked outside of North Hagerstown High School for next year. And then the hope would be that we would rotate that between North Hagerstown High School and South Hagerstown High School so that it's a 1-year program. Hancock will have 5 new courses that tailor along to, some of these are similar to what Hancock used to run with the agriculture program, but these courses were designed specifically for Hancock. We have the greenhouse already at Hancock, so we'll have a greenhouse 1 and 2 course, a wildlife management 1 and 2. We hope to partner with the DNR and the CNO Canal to expand opportunities there. And then we tweaked power mechanics to specifically focus on welding opportunities at Hancock. So we're excited about those 5 courses. I do want to thank the principal at Hancock for sitting with us and helping to give input to those courses. Another exciting opportunity, South Hagerstown High School and Boonesboro High School. We had a local company reach out to us, and we saw this as a win-win. We've talked about branching off beyond carpentry, and so cabinet making, which is there's a demand, especially locally with the company that reached out, and so we want to take advantage of that. We see a one-off 2-course pathway for cabinet making, and I think we had a great idea at CNI. How do we tie this in? We build houses through our Tech High program. Wouldn't it be cool to actually start to be able to build some of the cabinets, countertops, things like that are actually in our houses? So we're pretty excited about this opportunity as well. And then Public Service Academy, obviously there's a different physical demand that's required for EMS, first responders, fire rescue, and so we've designed 2 courses that to help students meet those demands. And with that, I always have to devote at least 1 slide to the middle school program of studies. There are no changes. Our goal would be to, in 25-26, backwards map, take this program of studies and begin to introduce it in the middle school so that students have an idea of those middle school courses and how they can align to different pathways at the high school level. So goal is to get your approval on the high school program of studies, this format, and of course, reauthorizing the middle school program of studies tonight, and then for next year, bring an updated program of studies for middle school that fits this design.
Colleagues, let's get a motion before us, and then we'll have questions. Is there a motion?
President Williams, I recommend the approval of the 2024-2025 middle and high school program of studies.
Thank you, Dr. Whitmire. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Bigford. Any discussion, any questions? Mr. Stauffer?
2 things. One, you said that AP Government didn't align with the government course being offered by HCC. Having taught government and AP Government and so forth, can you give me one concrete example of difference between that was made them not compatible?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do more with the timing. If you think about a typical college course, you're looking at a 45-hour course, all right, over the course of a semester.
Right.
If you think in general, you're looking at 2 days a week where you might be out on a campus for an hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes. AP for us is 180 days every day. So we were hopeful that originally when we brought the idea of the AP as dual credit, we would be able to do the additional things required through AP and still meet the requirements of HCC. But because certain things have to be taught in a certain order through HCC in order to take their final exam, their final assessment, what we found, it was just too many moving pieces for government and world history. Now, ironically, Mr. Stauffer, U.S. history is still in there. And so the reason for that is because they have two courses that align very closely to the AP U.S. History. So I don't know that I can give you specific examples other than to say the timing for how these courses run and the differences in what has to be taught in the AP course that does not have to be taught in the HCC course. That's where we ran into some issues.
I'd be more very interested in seeing the AP course now and the HCC course. If
I can
could
share that with
have
you.
access
Share
to
with
that.
all.
The other thing is, sometimes I sit and I see all these course offerings and so forth, and I sometimes think that maybe we in public education try to do too much, that we just seem to try to meet everybody's goals and needs and everything. And I'm not against that, but at some point, it stretches the resources and so forth and all of that. So, just a concern.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. I'd just like to say how excited I am about these new CTE courses. And not to highlight one school over another or one set of courses over another, but I'm particularly excited about the HVAC and the use of the trailer at North High. And I think it's wonderful what we're doing at Hancock by offering the power mechanics, the welding, and bringing the green life of the greenhouse and all the green life that'll be in the greenhouse back to usage. And then the wildlife management, because it is such a perfect fit for that area of the county. It's great. And then, of course, the cabinet making that you're going to be doing at South High and Boonesboro because of the very thing you said about the tie-in to the Trades Foundation buildings. It's just kind of a counter to what you're saying about trying to do too much. I think these are exciting offerings. And
They are exciting, but-
I would appreciate some kind of follow-up to let us know what kind of enrollment we get in those new programs, in that HVAC, in that greenhouse program, the management, the welding. I think that would be great to know.
Will do.
What kind of enrollment we have. Dr. Zentmeyer?
Also, kudos for the QR codes. I mean, everything you ever wanted to know but didn't know where to find it is right there. And you don't have to read through every single page. You just scan the QR code. It's right there. Information. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, you set about
Thank
to
the
make
team.
something user-friendly, and you nailed it. I mean, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Bickford's got something.
Mr. Bickford?
Oh, just because I sat on the curriculum instruction, so we got a sneak peek, and it was just a very exciting meeting, so I'm glad to see it come forward to public session here today. Also want to give kudos to the design work that went into the booklet, and will also be online. It tells the story of all the opportunities that our high school students have, and it makes it easy to find. And I love the idea that you're tying it into their futures, whether it be through college or through careers. And I was super excited about the Hancock developments because ever since we've been debating Hancock, we've thought about programs that would be unique to that high school and wildlife management for people that want to get into even DNR. And it sounds like we're going to have some sort of cooperative relationship, hopefully with DNR, which is right there. I think is extremely exciting. And I love to see that we're cooperating. We're getting support from local businesses that approached us, and we are training that workforce. And what I love about that is we're going to see students who walk across the stage, get their diploma, and on Monday are likely going to report for work and get a paycheck, so if not sooner, which I love to see that as well. So just kudos to your team. I'm very happy to approve this or vote for approval for this.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Mrs. Murphy?
Mr. Stauffer?
Go ahead.
I'm just pointing to you.
Oh,
The end of course thing for American government, where are the HSAs now? Are they now
The HSA, the MCAP replaced the HSA.
Right.
There are some similarities between the two assessments, but they are different.
so there is no MCAP then for government like there was for an HSA for government?
It's the American government MCAP, but it counts as an end-of-course assessment. The easiest way to remember science and social studies. So the biology MISA Life Science MISA, and the American Government MCAP assessment are 20% of the student's final grade. Math and ELA MCAP count toward college and career readiness. So the one is, well, two, math and ELA are college and career readiness, and the social studies, American Government, and Life Science MISA are end of course, which means they count as 20% of the final grade.
And I just want to say this, I didn't want my second comment to sound so negative, but there are a lot of resources, and when you do all this, it takes money. You got to have teachers and so forth, and space to do it in, and everything else, and it does stretch resources and so forth. But for Hancock, we've been trying to find a way to keep the high school part of it open, because it's an anomaly in the system. It's 17 miles from the nearest town, Clear Spring. So it does present problems that way.
Graham had a question.
Mr. Stauffer. Mr. Snyder.
Yeah, I just want to say this looks amazing. This is so incredibly accessible, and I know I would be overjoyed to have something like this if I was in 8th grade trying to figure out what was going on in high school. I think that it's great. There's so many, like the job market outlook, the college pathways. I think this is all amazing. I do have a question about the world languages section. Is there an area on the WCPS website, or, because I looked at the QR code and it's not there, that shows or displays a specific area where each language is offered? Because I know that that is something that a student could get special permission for going into high school, and it's not in the booklet. And I just like, if I was a student who was very incredibly interested in pursuing Japanese, and I was districted in North High, and I didn't know that Boonesboro offered Japanese, through the booklet or through the QR code, there would still be no way to look at this. That's just something I wanted to call attention to.
I think that's a great suggestion, and that's an easy fix to add to our website. We still are in draft format,
Yeah.
even after your approval tonight. The nice part is, we print a program of studies historically, and then we don't print again until the following year. With the website, we can continue to make updates based on suggestions from students, staff, parents, counselors, and continue to add information that doesn't require us to reprint the whole program. So that's something that we can easily do. And if I may, I just want to say I need to thank our incredible team beyond the Division of Curriculum Principals, counselors, Dr. Wilcox, the communications team, Jessica, Aaron, Joe, the whole group. The work that they did to help make this a reality, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the entire team. So I do want to thank, and also Dr. Savine, who, when we said we want to do this, he was 100% on board with the changes. So we appreciate everyone's support to make this a reality.
Great team effort. And Dr. Wilcox, I'd like to thank you for teaching me a new phrase, MISA EOC. And you use those two together, right?
Yep.
In a phrase, the MISA EOC. Okay, it's like alphabet soup. It's
Alphabet soup.
Not enough acronyms in their education.
Got another.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Absolutely.
So the MCAPs that we're talking about being part of the grade, is this essentially the same MCAP that we got the report on? And quite frankly, I don't think anywhere in the state really performed exceedingly well. Is that a concern? How is that something that we're preparing for? Because I know we did better than most areas in the state, but we still have quite a bit of room for improvement too.
So same MCAP, but different subject areas. The report that we presented, I think, back at the work session a couple months back was specifically on MCAP math and MCAP
reading.
ELA.
Yeah.
We, MCAP government and MCAP biology, we have not recently, I don't think, provided a board presentation on those.
Okay.
Looking at the score breakdown, and again, this is the first year we're giving it, but looking at historically the score breakdown and where our students perform and what equates to an A, a B, a C, a D, and so on, we feel fairly confident that our students historically would have performed very well under this new grading policy from the state, but until we actually have the results
never know, yeah.
back, I don't know that I can give you any data yet.
Right. Yeah, that was more of just kind of a comment of concern. And then, again, just like everyone else, I was happy to see the new programs at Hancock. Hopefully, that does attract a couple of students. There's some pretty cool things. Hopefully, they don't run into too many mountain lions out there. But and then the only other question I had, when I heard you talking about the robotics, I guess it kind of involves all of our tech programs like that. Obviously, I mean, I got this phone how many years ago now, and I still think it's pretty good, but it's already out of date, right? What are we doing with a lot of these tech programs, software and everything like that to kind of keep up? I'd imagine that when we look at those robotics, like 1 and 2 are probably pretty basic, but 3 and 4, there's probably always something more you could be building on, right?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, but I'm going to take it further than just robotics. The key to any strong CTE program is the business support. We actually call them PACs, and they're groups of businesses that come in and provide us with updates on what we need to do to keep our curriculum relevant. I'll give you an example. We upgraded our painting booths to new paint in our auto collision. Why? Because some of the materials we were using are not the industry standard anymore. So when we had that opportunity, we took advantage of it. But we don't always know those trends, which is why CTE programming is a representation of the community. It's the businesses that you have in your community that are participating in it. So whether it be robotics, whether it be auto collision repair, or really any of our CTE programs, from business to marketing to graphics design, it's essential that we have that community support so that we're working together to make sure that we are staying up to date in all of those areas.
Excellent.
Excellent question.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the 2024-2025 middle and high school program of studies. All those in favor of approval? Okay, we have 6 affirmative, a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Mrs. Ram with us for our next agenda item, and this involves a Board of Education Advisory Committee reappointment. Mrs. Ram?
I'm respectfully requesting that the board approve the reappointment of a current advisory committee member as previously discussed in closed session.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve the reappointment of the proposed candidate for membership on one of the Board of Education's advisory committees.
Thank you, Dr. Sentmeyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stousser. Any questions? Discussion? All those in favor, we're voting to approve the reappointment of the proposed candidate for membership on one of the board's advisory committees. All those in favor? Okay, we have a unanimous decision. Thank you. And now we're back to policies. Our next agenda item is the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEE, employee use of social media. Mrs. Ram?
Thank you. The policy committee reviewed policy GBEE at its public work sessions on December 13th, 2023 and January 11th, 2024. The committee recommended that the purpose and background sections of the policy be revised and the social media definition be updated. The updated definition distinguishes between a personal social media account and a WCPS social media account. In addition, the committee recommended adding a new paragraph that prohibits employees from posting photos and or names of any WCPS student to any personal social media account while in the course of their employment, and that prior to posting photos and or names of students on a WCPS social media account, then employees verify the student with the student's parent legal guardian has not opted the student out of such communications. The committee is recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEE.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEE entitled Employee Use of Social Media.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Questions, discussion? Mrs. Ram, I did receive a question from one of our employees, and I'll read that question to you. This is for clarity with regard to the changes to the social media policy. If an employee posted a congratulations to a student who won, say, a national award, or an athlete who won a state championship, or someone who earned a scholarship, say to Yale or Harvard, would that be permissible, or would that employee be in violation of our policy?
Yeah, let me walk through a few different policies. First, I want to say, I'll talk about the policy broadly. I'm not dispensing legal advice to that specific employee who asked the question, but broadly for our employees. The communications team does a nice job of posting those congratulations of significant events for students. And so certainly a staff's personal Facebook profile posts congratulations on a WCPS or shares a WCPS post, no problem. Where we run into issues and we want to distinguish is sometimes we have staff members use their personal account, they've taken a photo of their class and they've posted it. Now they're mixing their work and they're mixing personal, and they're putting something out there that is now potentially publicly available that they haven't been given permission. So if I'm a classroom teacher and it's my personal Facebook post, I should not say Graham's going to be getting into college, hopefully, right? So if I'm a classroom teacher, I shouldn't post a picture of Graham and congratulate him and say, look what one of my students did. Now, if it's a lot of our educators have WCPS social media accounts, like classroom accounts, and so say it was with that account and Graham's parents hadn't opted him out, and then as a teacher on their WCPS, I mean, we don't own it, but it's their classroom page says congratulations to the student, that would be acceptable. But we're just running into issues. Now, another scenario that I can imagine coming up is, say, we have an educator who's next door neighbor and friend of the family, and they want to congratulate them. Well, they're not congratulating them in the course of their business. They're congratulating them as a person who is a family friend, and that's the distinction. And that's why we added in the course of their employment. They shouldn't be posting classroom pictures or things specifically about their students on personal Facebook pages, but if it's outside of their role as an educator or employee and it's a family friend, that's the distinction. I hope that clarifies it.
Certainly. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay, then we're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy GBEE entitled Employee Use of Social Media. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative, a unanimous vote with a student member concurring. All right, our next first read is of proposed changes to policy ACE, Service Animals to Schools.
The Policy Committee reviewed policy ACE at its public work session on January 11, 2024. The committee recommended placing the policy in the correct format, in addition to updating the existing definitions and adding 2 new definitions. The committee also recommended that the policy clearly state that animals whose sole function is to provide emotional support, comfort, therapy, companionship, therapeutic benefits, or to promote emotional well-being are prohibited by the Board of Education in or on its property because they are not service animals as defined by the ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act. Lastly, the committee recommended that the policy also clearly state the reasons why the Board of Education may ask an individual with a disability to remove a service animal from the board's property. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy ACE.
Thank you, Mrs. Rand. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy ACE entitled Service Animals in Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Questions, discussion? No? Then we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy ACE entitled Service Animals in Schools. All those in favor? All right, we have 6 affirmative, a unanimous vote, student member concurs. All right. Next up is a first reading of proposed changes to policy BCBD, Secretary, Treasurer, Superintendent, and the first reading to rescind policy BCBE, Assistant Secretary-Treasurer.
The Policy Committee reviewed policies BCBD and BCBE at its public work session on January 11th, 2024. The committee recommended that the policies be combined into one policy because they essentially address the same topic. The language from policy BCBE was inserted into policy BCBD. Other recommended changes to policy BCBD also include formatting, removing duplicative language, and referencing the Maryland Opens Meeting Act as appropriate. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy BCBD and the first reading to rescind policy BCBE.
Mrs. Ram, is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy BCBD entitled Secretary and Treasurer/Superintendent, and the first reading to rescind policy BCBE entitled Assistant Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Mrs. Murray? Questions, discussion? No? Okay, then we are voting to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy BCBD entitled Secretary and Treasurer/Superintendent, and the first reading of the rescission of policy BCBE entitled Assistant Secretary-Treasurer. All those in favor? All right, we have 6 affirmative, a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. And our last and final first reading of the evening, proposed changes to policy EEA, pupil transportation.
The Policy Committee reviewed policy EEA at the request of staff at its public work session on January 11th, 2024. The committee recommended that the policy be placed in the correct format and that a definition section be included in the policy to reflect changes in the law. Specifically, the law was changed to allow alternative school vehicles, and our policy didn't include that before. The committee also recommended that several sections of the policy which are operational in nature be struck from the policy and moved to the accompanying administrative regulation as we've done in many other policies. The committee is now recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy EEA.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy EEA entitled Pupil Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions?
Now I have one.
All right.
So I noticed, you said there at the end that, you want to remove some of the verbiage that says that it is operational in nature. And, I mean, I saw we did just go and change the verbiage of, instead of saying do not resuscitate procedures for JHC, we switched the word to orders. But really, I mean, and I know we have taken a lot of stuff out that we deem to be procedural. How do we go and make that determination? Because it's just like there's, in every single statement we have, in this particular one, section 4 is policy statement/procedures. So how do we go and do that? That's kind of where I get confused with this.
Yeah, I can walk through a bit on this policy specifically, yet in general. I know you see a lot of strikeouts in this policy, which,
Right.
As a member of the public or board member would cause you to pause. There's a lot of duplicative language in this as well. By adding a definitional section, we struck a lot. By referencing students with disabilities as defined by the law, we were able to eliminate a section. Okay, and then we talked about the overall policy of the what and the why, and then the how do we implement. So there's policy procedures, which the law prescribes you must have certain things, like we talked about with the do not resuscitate orders, and how you actually execute each one of those or carry them out operationally is what the distinction is. So in this case, we added a definition for alternative school vehicle. Now, we're not going to add in the policy all the means and types and ways you use it, because it's going to be case by case. So your regulations also need to be more fluid as operations and things change, budgets, funding, staffing, but we want to make certain the overall law is kept intact so that the board is ultimately making the decision of what our policy is governing the school district, and then staff can execute it within the confines of that. Does that help?
Yeah, no, quite frankly, I mean, this particular one, I think it makes perfect sense because, we can't really go create a policy on how we get a kid from point A to point B. That's definitely outside our scope. I just think there are certain things that we do say are procedural that I guess I do disagree, and we could go talk about that another time. That's not really part of this discussion, but like I said, when I saw that written in our material here, and I mean, then we had the do not resuscitate procedures. Obviously, we changed the name of it there, but I don't know. It just kind of confused me a little bit,
Yeah, let me talk just briefly about the do not resuscitate procedures. That policy hadn't been looked at a while. There was a lot of changes to the law.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what happens there is nursing guidelines, which we don't set policy on, which is why that was changed. And the law changed the wording on it.
Right.
So sometimes we strike the words procedures because the law changes the definition, or the nursing board changes, or things like that is what causes it. So I guess it's a misnomer sometimes to use the word procedures because people think procedures is how you execute the step by step.
Right.
But sometimes procedures is, in that case, you have to have an order, you have to honor it, but the regulation will say, hey, nurses, when you look at it, this is what you need to do next.
Right.
So we could probably maybe look at another word for procedures to make it clear.
Like I said, I obviously just agreed with all of these. I voted for all of them. It's just something that's been in the back of my mind, and then I just saw it pop up there, so I appreciate it.
Always good to ask. You've learned. Yeah.
Well, and I would also add that, the committee that does this is the Policy Review and Development Committee. And this particular policy was first adopted in 1981, and then wasn't revised until 2008, and then was revised again in 2009, and this is 2024. So we're talking 15 years since this policy was really looked at, so, it's,
Any other
times change.
questions or comments? Okay, and we have a motion, Mr. Bickford's motion, Mr. Stauffer's second, to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy EEA entitled Pupil Transportation. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative, a unanimous vote, and the student member concurs. Thank you so much, Mrs. Ram. We worked too hard this evening. Okay, colleagues, our next agenda item is board member standing committee assignments. In accordance with policy BDE and based on the prioritized preferences of committees I received from all of you, I am proposing the following slate. You have that in front of you. As per policy, each committee will have 3 members and will be in effect for 1 year until a new slate is voted on in 2025. The new committee assignments will be in effect following our vote. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve the recommended standing committee assignments.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Any questions, any discussion? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the recommended standing committee assignments as presented. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative votes, unanimous vote. Thank you. That concludes our new business, and now we'll move to the superintendent's report, and Dr. Savine has an update for us. Dr. Savine.
Thank you, President Williams and members of the board. For my update this evening, I'm excited to share that WCPS is making incredible progress with our students, and it's being recognized at the state level. The Maryland State Department of Education sees that we are closing achievement gaps for some of our struggling readers in a big way. Our English language arts team Washington County will now, I'm pleased to share that Washington County will now be a host site for MSDE's Literacy Learning Lab this coming spring. Our English language arts team will share our strategies using supports and systems to improve literacy, instruction, and accelerate learning for our readers in grades 4 through 8. Also, before I continue with my next update, I do want to take a moment. While the state is recognizing WCPS for our efforts, in particular with the science of reading, and as you referenced, analyzing our data and recognizing us for aggressively closing achievement gaps, recognizing that earlier we had testimonials regarding dyslexia. And certainly the school district has invested in training, and I'm pleased to share that this year, as was referenced, an advocacy and desire for Bowman Orton Gillingham training for our teachers. I'm pleased, and I know this board is aware because you received communication before the holiday break that in this current year, we are investing more in training our teachers, in particular with Bowman Orton Gillingham and Wilson Reading Systems. There is a focus there and also a plan to continue to invest and enhance our training in those areas with the goal of having at least one person, if not more, in every one of our WCPS schools trained in either Bowman Orton Gillingham's Plus or the Wilson Reading System. Also, we'll share with you that our special ed team, working closely with our curriculum instruction team, with our focus on the science of reading, they're looking at Tier 3 approaches and more robust training in the upcoming year, 2024-25, in this specific area. So that is indeed a point of focus, and our goal is to make sure all of our students are successful readers. Our team was in Annapolis last week in anticipation for the Maryland General Assembly's legislative session kickoff. Our chief legal counsel and deputy communications officer and I participated in a special tour and meeting in Annapolis, and John Willems, who was with the Maryland Association of the Boards of Education, generously provided us with a tour to help us best prepare and advocate for our students and our schools in Annapolis. We look forward to working in partnership with our board's legislative response team and our local delegation in the upcoming session. I'd also like to extend a very special congratulations to Boonesboro High School's We the People team. They achieved their 9th consecutive state championship. I don't know about you all, but that kind of run is beyond impressive in my book. As a part of the competition, students participate in simulated congressional hearings, testifying before a panel of judges acting as members of Congress. We certainly look forward to recognizing them at an upcoming board meeting, perhaps next month. And the last item, or next to last item that I would like to share, this is a special month. January is National School Board Month. This month provides an opportunity for us to reflect on the vital role that school boards play in fostering a safe and supportive learning environment and strong community schools. Your collective vision, advocacy, and strategic guidance continue to inspire positive change and innovation in our educational programs. I want to thank you for your selfless service and the countless hours that each of you dedicate to enhancing our schools. Your leadership creates a foundation that will have a lasting impact on the lives of our students. And just before this meeting started, I received a special delivery, and in recognition of board member appreciation, we've received 2 documents that I'd like to present to our Board of Education. The first is an official proclamation from Governor Wes Moore recognizing Maryland School Board's commitment to ensuring a world-class educational experience for every Maryland student. The second document is a certificate and the certificate of appreciation from the President of the Maryland State Board of Education and the Executive Director of the Maryland Association of Boards of Education. This certificate emphasizes our school board's dedicated leadership and committed service to public education in our state. I would invite board members now to come forward with a special picture and recognition, and I'll hold up the special proclamation from the governor. Some of those pictures need updating.
Picture on the paper. They used my work photo from like 10 years ago.
Before I conclude and transition to my last comments, and once again, just let's hear a round of applause for our board members. Yes, yeah. Yeah, I thank each of you in recognizing that this board is committed, also very empathetic. You care about our students and the parents in this community. I want to thank you for listening and working with the superintendent and staff to have, just an exceptional school district that's being recognized at the state level. So we thank you for your leadership. The last item that I have is there's a change in school operations tomorrow due to inclement weather. All schools will be operating on a 2-hour delay on Wednesday, January the 17th. Our transportation staff will be traveling the roads across the county tomorrow morning to determine if we need to close school for a day. But at this time, schools will be on a 2-hour delay for Wednesday, January the 17th. If something should change, we plan to make any update by 7 o'clock in the morning. President Williams, members of the board, that concludes my update.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sabine. We appreciate it. Okay, colleagues, our next action item involves personnel, and we have Dr. Jennifer Webster, our Associate Superintendent for Administration and Leadership, presenting.
Thank you. Good evening, Mrs. Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Sabine. Excuse me. As discussed earlier during closed session, there are several personnel actions for your review. At this time, I ask for your approval of today's staff changes.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. Is there a motion, please?
President Williams, I move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, January 16th, 2024, as presented in closed session.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Okay, colleagues, we're voting to approve the personnel actions dated today, January 16th, 2024, as presented earlier in closed session. All those in favor? All right, we have 6 affirmative, a unanimous vote. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Webster. Okay, and now for reports to the board. Board member committee reports. Dr. Snyder, Mr. Snyder, how about that?
Someday.
How about I conferred an honorary degree
Someday.
on you just like that?
Hope.
Mr. Snyder.
Yeah, the Washington County Association of Student Councils is holding our 3rd General Assembly of the year here in the board meeting room on February 1st during the morning. All board members and staff are invited to come down and see what's happening. And additionally, the Maryland Association of Student Councils is holding our convention, and that is coming up soon from February 27th to March 1st, I believe, this year. And that deadline, I believe, may have already closed or is closing very soon for registration. And that is all.
that being held?
The convention, Ocean City.
Mrs. Murray, Human Resources?
Yes, Human Resources met on Tuesday, January 10th, and we had a lot of information presented. Mrs. Baker introduced the new Coordinator of Human Resources, Employee Benefits, Kathleen Boyer. Mr. Prue gave us an update on the Employee Medical Clinic, which they are hoping to open in May. Sandy Hammond, Coordinator of Human Resources for ESP, said that we still have around 74 open positions. Lindsay Dar, Coordinator for Teacher Personnel, said that there will be information going out to teachers on the new state regulations for certifications. WCPS is still in need of a teacher for visually impaired students. Tim Haynes said that he is scheduled for many more job fairs this year at college campuses. And it's the most since everything was closed down for COVID. They will also be holding local job fairs as they have done in the past. And finally, this information will be available on the new and improved WCPS website when it is completed. I'm excited about that.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Mr. Bickford, Policy Review and Development Committee?
Well, as you can see, policy was busy, continues to be busy. I did want to review policies from 2023. Jamie Brown put together just a quick update on all the things that we did, and I just wanted to point out that we reviewed a total of 31 policies in 2023 and 1 administrative regulation, and you also approved regulations and exhibits, 15 of them. So we've all been busy, and the work continues. So,
Thank you very much.
Mr. Evans, Finance Committee?
Nothing new at this time.
Thank you. Dr. Zentmeyer, Curriculum and Instruction?
C and I met last Friday to consider the renewal of a middle school science resource and a secondary ELA resource, as well as the program of studies presented this evening. Our next meeting is February 15th, 10 o'clock a.m. at Hicks.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our committee reports and reports to the board. Moving to miscellaneous business, as always, we have at least one miscellaneous business item every meeting, and it's always for the future agenda items list. And you have that list as part of your packet, colleagues. We have coming up on February 5th, another work session with the topic, the superintendent's recommended fiscal year 25 budget. We have the second reading of all the policies that we did first reading of this evening. Those are happening at our business meeting in February 20th. Also on February 20th, we have as an action item the board's fiscal year 2025 budget. That evening we'll also be learning about the Innovate Ed Learning Center that was mentioned earlier today. And we will also be presented with information about the 2024 blueprint plan, as well as the kindergarten readiness assessment results. So February is shaping up to be a good month. If you have any suggestions for agenda items, please let a member of the Agenda Planning Committee know so that we can take care of getting it on a future agenda. And that brings us to board member comments. So where should we begin? Would you like to go first?
I will.
All right.
I will. When my piano tuner arrived yesterday, the first question he had was, when did you last have this piano tuned? I realized that my piano was another COVID casualty. However, the final product brought a cheer to my ears, and I realized that sometimes we all have our strings stretched a little bit and need a good tuning. So I encourage everyone to think about what in your life needs a good tuning. Also, Boonesboro, which was my home forever, or at least 15 years, congrats to the Boonesboro High School We the People champs. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sentmeyer. Mr. Evans?
Yeah, congrats to Boonesboro We the People. That's pretty incredible streak there, and it's good to see that civic education is alive and well in the county here too. So that's always really good, and hopefully everyone is nice and well rested after, well, at least the students, after their 4-day weekend, and get an extra couple hours of sleep tomorrow. So hopefully everyone is back to start the new semester in a strong way tomorrow.
Couple things. One, the General Assembly is meeting, and I've always been a little negative about the General Assembly. I just hope there's not too much damage done in a 90-day session. It can be done and has been done. Secondly, I had the great opportunity, thanks for Mrs. Murray, to informing me about attending poetry reading by the 4th grade classes at Salem. And Mrs. Murray, please help me. It's Mr. Ecker, Mrs. Wood, and the third.
Mr. Iker.
Iker,
Mrs.
Wood, and.
Oh, no, I forget. Wasn't that awful?
Okay,
I'm sorry,
we
I'll
both
think of
forgot
it.
then.
Yeah.
Oh, my glory.
Jeremy Golden?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The kids did a great job, and it was amazing. Hate to use this word because some people have a certain image of it. The diversity in the classrooms of the students, their backgrounds, and so forth. It's a fact, folks. Washington County is a very diverse school system. And I want to say something else. I get tired sometimes of hearing attacks on our teachers. A lot of our teachers belong to the Teachers Association in Washington County. It's not a union. You can't strike. You don't have to join. To me, it's not a union. It does have collective bargaining skills. But I don't know. I get a little tired of people coming in here and laying on our Teachers Association stuff that's happening in other places with the American Federation of Teachers and so forth and so on. Our Teachers Association here is not a radical group. I spent many years being a teacher representative, sitting on the board of directors, helping out on the negotiations team, and so forth. And it's not a radical a group of individuals. It really is not. And I take great exception to that, Mrs. Mound. I really do.
Thank you, Mr. Stauffer. Mr. Bickford?
I just want to call out some kudos to the people that have to make the tough decisions about when we have weather days like this and get up extra early to monitor conditions, but also our bus drivers who have to drive in it. And I was especially glad to see that we gave some special recognition to some bus drivers who really deserved it recently, because sometimes you have to drive in conditions you don't want to drive in, and they got them there safely, which is fantastic. And also, I want to call attention to the county as well, because the county is extra vigilant on days like that, I think, especially, and very mindful of our schools and making sure that roads are passable and that conditions are safe. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Mrs. Murray?
So I'm going to go fast. Congratulations to Boonesboro on win number 9. If you've never seen We the People, you must. It is so impressive. I love it. Salem does it, I don't know whether they still do it, in the 5th grade, and it was absolutely wonderful. I also thoroughly enjoyed the poetry event at Salem. That was great. And thank you to everyone who came out on this cold, snowy night to attend and speak at our meeting. We appreciate it. And congratulations to my fellow board members. Thank you all for all of the work that you do on behalf of WCPS. I think we make a great team. And everyone be safe going home.
Thanks. Mary. Mr. Snyder.
All right. I have a few things. On Friday morning last week, I went to Western Heights Middle School. I spoke to their student council as well as their arts programs, their theater, dance, and choral, I believe, combined in their auditorium. It was a pleasure, and I also spoke to some classes and some of my old teachers. I actually went to Western Heights. It was a great time. I got to learn a little bit about whatever's going on in Western Heights, in the middle school student council scene, encourage students to use their voice, advocate, and a student actually has already reached out to, I believe they emailed myself, President Williams, about something. So that was really nice to see, and it was really good to see a tangible effect of my school visits, so that was really nice. Additionally, on the topic of school visits, I'm going to Boonesboro High School on Thursday afternoon to speak to their student council as well as tour their programs. Student member elections are still open for nominations, so if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to myself or the student council advisor, Mr. Jesse Orth, for Washington County. And I've also begun seeking outside opinions and options for the student member election restructure, which I am currently in the middle of working on. I've met with a couple of different people along board staff as well as outside with student councils and student members from across the state to work on restructuring that to be a little more accessible. And I hope all students and teachers and educators and staff drive very safe tomorrow morning despite the 2-hour delay. And that is all.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Well, by the time we get to this point in the meeting, I'm pretty much talked out, and I don't often have a lot to say during board member comments because it's been all said or my voice is just worn out. But I do have a few things that I would like to say this evening. First of all, congratulations to that awesome Boonesboro High School team. I had the great privilege of serving as a judge years ago for the high school competition and also for the elementary competition. And that program is just something that is great. And the teachers who involve their students in it and all those students who become involved are just benefiting greatly from it, and they make us so proud. I have a MABE Board of Directors committee meeting, a MABE Board of Directors meeting tomorrow. And at our last Board of Directors meeting, we had the co-chairs of the MABE Conference Program Committee present the findings of their survey following the conference. Now, we all fill out a survey and evaluation form. And I would like to one more time commend the team from Washington County Public Schools that presented at the MABE conference. They had the top scores of any of the sessions presented, and that program was the apprenticeship program here in WCPS, and that team was Dr. Willow, our Associate Superintendent, Adam Perry, Tanya Rao, and Amber Day. I just can't say enough about how proud they make us and what a wonderful apprenticeship program we have here. It serves as a model for the state. I'd like to let you know, colleagues, that I continue to serve as the board's liaison to the Washington County Diversity and Inclusion Committee. That committee meets monthly. We're back to meeting in person as of, December, I guess, was our first meeting in person. We had been meeting via Zoom throughout the pandemic and following. That committee meets on the second Monday of each month at 7 p.m. Downtown in the county building on West Washington Street. It's a public meeting and it's open to anyone who would like to attend. So that concludes my comments. Dr. Savine, do you have anything that you would like to offer?
Nothing further.
All right. Thank you. Enjoy the delay tomorrow and stay safe out there on the streets and on the roads going home tonight. We are adjourned.